how to write definitions using my diff keywords, right? How I can call them, right? So that is my procedural programming approach. The next approach that we will see is my using classes. That is my object-oriented programming. Okay, so my Python supports both procedural as well as object-oriented programming. Okay, now what is my object-oriented programming and what is the use of it? Okay, so object-oriented programming is considered to be very close to the real world. Okay, um, so main reason of bringing object-oriented programming, if you see the features, this is kind of jargons that it should provide encapsulation, then polymorphism. What is basically mean by object-oriented? Polymorphism, then I have inheritance, okay, and then abstraction. So you can see such jargons are available if I say my any language is object-oriented or okay. So in my object-oriented, everything will be objects. Okay. So what is my object? What is my classes? Okay. So my classes and my objects will be real-world entities. Okay. So let's take an example of an company. Let's take an example of an employee. Okay. Now, if you see a employee class, right? Now, if you see each employee, it will have some attributes, right? Each employee will have its name. Let's say if it's a part of a company, it will have its own ID, then contact number, let's say, then salary will be there, right? So these, I can say some of the things which will be common for each and every employee, right? So what my classes and objects will be. So we will create one structure. Okay, we will create one blueprint that this is how my class will look. Okay, now so that blueprint will be my class. Okay, and I will access that class using my objects. Okay, now if you see the requirement that if I create so in this case my employee will be a class, right? So, and my each employee, each person in that company will be one object of that class, right? So it's like mapping of real world entities to the programming world. Okay. Now, so if you see my each employee should have all these attributes, right? Each and every employee should have all these things. Okay. So in terms of classes in programming, so I'll have one class which will called as employee, and it will have some variables, and that is called as my attributes. Okay, so name, id, contact number, salary, let's say at the moment we will consider this, and you will have some methods to manipulate. Okay, so you will have let's say get name, right? If you want a particular person's name, get id. Okay, get salary. If you want to increment a person's salary, okay, if you want to update a phone number, then update something. Alright, so this can be the operations related to all these variables, right? So my class will have attributes and the method related to it, okay? And I will create an object of this particular class, okay, to manipulate all these things, okay? So coming back to my Python classes, how to define a class in Python? So I have a keyword called class. Okay, I'll say class name. Let's say I'm creating a same class employee. Okay, colon will specify it's a block of code as a standard syntax. Okay, and then we will define a structure for it. Okay, that what it should contain and not. Okay, for now I'm writing nothing. I'm just saying class. Okay, now how to create an object of it. Okay, so you will create one variable. Let's say you have to pass the class. You have to call the class name and the brackets. Okay, so this will be now my object. All right. Okay, this is my syntax. So you will just say class employee colon Okay, you will write a structure here. Okay, you will write employee object as a variable to access the object, and you will specify the class name. Okay, now let's consider you are creating an employee. So each employee will be your each object, right? So what I'm saying, I want the employee whose name is ABC. Okay, uh, whose salary is, let's say, 50,000. Okay, so contact number is, all right, something like this. Okay, I'll create a new employee. Okay, so I have something like this. So I will be creating employee, each object, each employee will be my object of my class. Okay. So what is the syntax? I'll just say variable name and I have to class call the class. Okay. Now you have to provide a meaning to this class. Okay. So in languages like Java and C, we have a constructor, right? To initialize the variable. Okay. Now we have something similar to constructors. Okay. So in Java, you will write your exact class name. Okay. That will be your method. You will write in the parentheses. You will hit enter, and you will tell the values that this is my default value. Okay. Now, how my Python classes work. So whenever you create a new object using a class name, okay, it will defaultly give a call to init. Okay, so this method you have to define. Okay, so whenever my Python will see emp, that is my class name, it will defaultly give a call to this particular init method. Now this init method is similar to your constructor, which can be used to initialize your variable. Okay. Now, if you see the use case, what I want a employee. Okay. And each employee should have a name, then ID, salary, and contact number. Right. So this is something I want to achieve. Okay. So I'm adding ID also here. Okay. All right. So how it works? My defaultly my Python will give a call to this init function. Okay. Now consider this as a normal definition only, as I have a div keyword. The method name looks something different, but this is how it should be written. That is underscore underscore init underscore underscore. Okay, this is the method name of init, and it will get defaultly called. You do not have to call. Okay. Now, all these values which you are passing, okay, as this is a method, you will accept this same number of parameters, right? Okay. So it may accept it as a name, ID, salary, and phone number. Okay, so consider this as a normal function call. Okay, so when I say employee with this path, this values, it will be like a function call to this init method. Okay, now I have few things. One is my instance variable and a class variable. Now, what is instance variable? So, instance variable is something that each object will have its own copy. Okay, so if I'm creating an object of employee one, okay, my each object should have a copy of name, ID, salary, and a phone number, right? If I create another employee, the name, ID, salary will be different to that function, right? So it should be different. So each object should have a copy of it, right? Now, how to define an instance variable? How to define such a variable? Okay. Now, my Python will add, whenever there is a function call, it will add one extra argument. Okay. Now, how this is working? Okay. So when you say a call to this employee, that is employee class, okay, defaultly it passes employee. Okay, give a call to this employee class. Okay, defaultly it will call init. Okay, but pass the object who is invoking it. Comma 123, comma 5000, all these values. Okay. So internally, it will be when you say employee only, the particular object you are using, that object will be passed as a first argument. Always, always. Now this you will not see any language till now. Okay, that's why this is a bit different. Okay, just I know it will take time to grasp. Okay, but understand. So when I say when I am calling this employee class, right, to create the object, the first argument it will pass will be always the object, always the object only. Okay. Now, as this is my method call, I have to accept that also, right? That's why I'm accept. So this is called as my self keyword. All right. Now this can be anything. This can be anything. You can write any name here, but my standard convention says write self. Okay. Now this will be a current object. Okay. So what I want, the name, ID, salary, and the phone number which I am getting. Okay. It should be saved in my particular save instance, right? So what I'll do, I'll create some instance variable. I'll say self dot name. I'll say self dot ID. I say self dot salary. I'll say self dot phone number. Okay. Now understand here. So the values which I am passing here are just the method arguments. Okay. This will, my use case is that every object should have a copy of their own variable. Okay. So when now I have a object reference in myself. Okay. So what I'm saying create a copy of create a variable with ID name, ID, salary, and the phone number. Okay, and assign them the name, ID, and salary which I have got from my method. Okay. Now, as it looks like my key for it's taking the ID function, I'm saying employee ID. Okay. All right. Now, these names and these names do not have to be same, right? Understand the difference. So these are my method arguments. Okay. So what I'll say x comma y comma z. How many values I'm passing? 1, 2, 1. Right? Now 4. Okay, let's start with w then. W, x, y, and z. Okay. Now, when I'm giving a call to this employee, when I'm creating object, okay, I'm passing few values, right? That are my name, then my ID, my salary, and my contact number. Okay. Now I want this variable values to be set for each and every instance with each and every object, right? So for that object, okay, so in self I have that particular object, right? So I'm saying self dot name is equals to w, self dot employee ID is equals to x, self dot salary is equals to y, and self dot full number is equals to z. Right? I'm setting something like this. Now what I'll do, I'll here print turn dot new. Alright, I'm printing something like this. Come on this one now. Save it, run it. Okay. Now if you see, I have created a object, I have created a class, and I've defined a few structure for it, right? So I'm saying create me a name, ID, salary, and phone number variable for each object. Okay, I will pass these values to tell my object that wants to be initialized. Okay, and it will set these values for here. Okay, now let's create another object. But that no need to use the reference. No, no. Okay, I have something like this. Now, if you see, I have two different variables, employee object one, it is containing set of values, right? Now, if I just say employee object one, it has this name, ID, salary, and the phone number value. Employee object two, it is also having its own copy of name, ID, salary, and the phone number, right? So this is how I can achieve this using my classes and my objects. Okay. Now the concept which we have seen, that is my instance variable. Now what is my instance variable? My each object should have its own copy of variables, right? Now how to define? So in my Python, any variable which is defined with the self dot name is an instance variable. Okay. Now what I'm doing, I'm saying a is equals to 100 here. Okay. I'll say here friend. Okay. If you see here, this is giving attribute error. EMP object has no attribute E. Okay. So this is the difference. Okay. So when I'm creating a normal variable, that is A is equals to 100. Okay. You can use this variable here. Alright. What you can do, you can use this variable here. This will go. Alright. Okay. Printing will not, I mean assigning this will not work. Okay. You can create variables. Okay, you can use them in a class. Okay, but if you do not define a self at the start of that, it will not be an instance variable. And what I mean by it will not be an instance variable means my each object will not have a copy of it. Okay, if I say self dot name, then no matter how many objects I create, my each object will have a name. Okay, self dot employee ID, each object will have this variable employee ID, its own copy of employee ID. Clear? Clear to you? Right? Sai, clear?
Yes, Kunal, clear.
How about you, Johnson?
I'm also clear, Kunal.
Okay, okay, all right. So syntactically, this will be the most complex part of my Python. Okay, because other syntaxes are really simple. So here you might see that something, what is this init underscore underscore init, right? Two things will be a bit different. Okay, we'll go a bit slow, but make sure that you understand the entire concept of classes. Okay, clear? So this is how I can create my instance variable. All right. Now, what is my instance variable? So instance variable is anything which is defined with the self keyword inside my init or in any method. Okay. Now what I mean by that. So we have seen I can create a variable which is accessible to all my objects using the self. Okay. Now why we are doing this? If you see a Java or something, okay, what you will do, you will create a class, okay, and you will start writing private int a, okay. Now this variable will be available to all the methods which are in this particular class, right? You will say public string b, okay. Now this variable will be available outside of this also, right? So this is how. So we are defining variables just after writing the class name, right? But in my Python, I do not have anything to define a data type and a variable name, right? My Python variables comes into existence once I assign a value to it, okay? So that's why I do not have to explicitly define a variable name, okay? So you will just directly start assigning values to it, and then it will come to existence, okay? So what I'll say create attribute method, okay? So department, okay. Now let's have a look. So my each employee will have its own department, right? Okay. Now when I'm creating object, let's say scenario that department is not yet known, right? Okay. So what I'm writing a set department method. What this will do, whatever be the department passed to it, okay, it will take as a value, okay, or I'll keep it as generic as possible. Something is passed to this, okay, and this should be assigned to its variable. Okay, I'm doing something like this. Now, this is your user defined method, right? Okay, now how I can call this? So far we have seen, right? So I say, so you can access your variables and your methods using your object, right? Looks like so. So I'll say emp object one dot set department. Okay. My function says you have to pass a value to, let's say I'm passing HR. Okay. Now let's print the value of emp object one dot. Oh, okay. What is the issue? Where is my E? Okay. So I have created a new instance variable inside another method also. Okay. Now this copy will be available. So this variable will be available for all other objects also to use. Okay. So at the moment I haven't set anything for this another object, right? Dot the okay. So at the moment this is giving me error that there is no attribute department. Why? The value is not set. Okay. I copy this. Let me call it the admin department. Okay. So this is how we can create instance variables and the inside of my init method and inside of my any other method also. Okay. Now how, so in my general case, access to this variable outside of class should be restricted. Okay. The only way it should be allowed is using definition. Okay. So I should not be allowed to access this name, employee ID, salary by variable name outside of my class. Okay. So defaultly my Python will allow me to do it. Okay. So how I can restrict it? How I can make it private to my class? Okay. So before the variable names, we will put underscore underscore. All right. Now this department method I'm not putting. Okay. For all I'm putting. Okay. Let's see the difference now. Oh, let's remove this thing. Keep everything else commented. Okay. Now I'm creating an object. I made this as a private using underscore underscore, but still I'm trying to access it here. Okay. Now let's see what I get. So earlier that was working. Now it's showing error that employee object has a no attribute name. Okay. Now this will be the variable names will be unknown for outside of my class. Okay. I cannot access these things. Okay. But I create this. I give a call to set department, and my set department is not set to private. Okay. So let's try to set department. Okay. That is working. Okay. So this is how you can make a variable as a private. Okay. If you do not specify anything, that is, if you just give self.department, this is defaultly public. Okay. But if you specify underscore underscore, that will be a private. Okay. At the time of inheritance, we will see how to make it a protected one. Okay. Now you have restricted access. Now how you can access this thing. Okay. So the way to do it, you will specify the getter and setter method. Okay. So you will say get method. So you will pass the objects. All right. And this method will return you all the variables. Okay. Return self dot underscore underscore name, comma self dot underscore underscore employee ID, comma self dot underscore underscore salary, comma self dot underscore underscore phone number. Okay, so I'm returning this. Right. So as I'm returning, I have to accept it, right? So now let's make this one to private so that I will not have any access to my any variable outside of my class. I'm saying self dot underscore underscore sorry department, right? I'm doing something like this. Now set department, I have set the department. Now this will also not work. So I'm creating variable t is equals to emp object run dot get. Alright. Now if you see, I'm just passing self and anything, nothing, right? If there is a self, which means I'll not pass anything, right? If there's only one argument, right? Self is the object instance. So this will give me the variable names in my tuple, right? So I'll say print my t here. Okay. All right. So this is the ideal way to access my variables outside of my class. Okay. So I'll make it protected. Okay. And I'll write a getter and setter method for that. Okay. So for each variable, you will have a different set method. You can have a different set or a get method if you need that specifically that element. Okay. So today we have covered how to define a class. Okay. what is my init method, what is my instance variable, okay, how to write and how to make it a protected. Okay. So we will continue with this tomorrow also. Okay. So we will see how to create the class method. Okay. Then what is my static method? What is my class methods? Right. Then what is my inheritance? Okay. So all these topics are left for the classes. Okay. So we will go slowly for classes. Now practice this. Okay. Practice the same example first, and then I'll give you the practice problem. Okay. But it's important that we should get a hold of this syntax. Okay. Try the same example. Try it without protected first, and then try to make it protected.